It's
Thank you.
it's worth going back to, don't you think, those of you who have the book?
Yes.
Because it's just topics that are interesting and provocative, and make for good conversation.
You can read just one chapter, or
Pardon?
you can read just one chapter,
Yeah.
or go to the front or the back, or whatever.
Yeah, each of the chapters are only a couple pages long. So. Okay, well, let's pray in. Are you all ready? So take some deep breaths and bring yourself fully here. And I am going to share as we begin as a prayer, Charles Fillmore's invocation. And as I speak those words, because it's in the first person, just take it in for yourself as the first person, okay? If it's comfortable for you. I am now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of light, love, and wisdom. I acknowledge thy presence and thy power, O blessed Spirit. In thy divine wisdom, now erase all my mortal limitation, and from thy pure substance of love, bring into manifestation my world according to thy perfect law. And so, Spirit, we enter this time now open and receptive to your presence, power, wisdom, love, pouring in us, around us, through us, and to us. We give thanks that this is a fruitful, provocative, impactful time for all of us. We pray this knowing that it's done. We speak the word knowing that it's done, and we let it go now into the abundance of your goodness. And we all say, Amen.
Amen.
So you all got Judy's artwork, a card to send out to anybody. I love these. Isn't she amazing? Judy is really a sculptor. Wouldn't you say first and foremost, Judy, you're a sculptor? Sculptor? No. Eileen knows the answer. What is the answer?
She originally started painting. She used to do portraiture.
Oh, portraiture.
Yeah, so she did bunches and bunches back east of all of her friends, grandkids, and everything.
Oh, okay.
But I was thought originally I would pen and ink because I did drafting and all that kind of stuff. So that's how come I'm going back to my childhood now.
It's a good, not a bad idea.
Yes, that's what this book is all about.
Okay, well, I would like to stir up the energy. And so think of something that brings you joy. Something that brings you joy. And just share that. And if you would share your name, because we have a couple people here who aren't here every time, back again. So let's start with Maya, your name and something that brings you joy.
Hi everyone, Maya. Dancing is bringing me a lot of joy right now.
Great.
Oh, Susan Fisher. First thing that came to mind was my granddaughter. It's just amazing to watch children, and she's so happy and, inquisitive and everything. But then I love the ocean. That really brings me joy too.
Thanks, Sue.
That's kind of hard to find here.
Okay.
My name's Howard or Jan, depending on who, or Harold, depending on who. There's so many things in life that brings me joy. I'm very fortunate in that regard, but I've always talked about Susan brings me joy. But I've got a dog, a little dachshund miniature long hair. She brings me a lot of joy. So.
What's her name?
I named her Katie because she's red after my mother, and she was a little independent, little rebellious, a little stubborn. Sorry, Mom.
He asked his brothers and sisters if that was okay, if they mind.
Thank you.
I'm Linda, and when I first come in here, the joy I get is from Cleo. Betty, and music brings me joy, particularly singing and particularly Sunday mornings here with the group. Wonderful.
Thank you.
My name is Matush, and my pets bring me a dog. One of them is called Maya, and we named her after Maya. She was rescued. She was thrown out of a car, and she had puppies. So anyway, Maya Angelou's poem, "And Yet I Rise," came to my mind. And I love feeding my doves every evening at sunset. About 20 of them come to the back garden. And I give them bird seed and I watch them. And the other day I ran out of bird seed, so I gave them dog food and they didn't eat it.
Can you repeat? We couldn't hear online.
Yeah, Mantush was saying her 2 dogs bring her joy. And you shared their name, right, Mantush?
Maya and Rudy.
Maya and who?
Rudy.
Rudy, okay. And then you also feed.
I feed my doves every evening. They come, they live around the garden. I think word's gotten around that there's free bird seed. So about 20 of them come in the evening around sunset.
So she's feeding the neighborhood pets. The neighborhood nature. Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol, and first thing that came to mind that brings me joy is friendship.
Oh,
And then this close second is my cat, Abby, she's my sweet little cat. She's always on my lap, and as soon as I come in the house, she goes right to where I'm gonna sit, and she wants to be held.
thank you.
I guess.
What's your name?
Joy. I guess right now, this stage of life, have some challenges, but I've been healthy and my mind's still a little bit sharp, that I've been able to overcome a lot of them and figure it out, because I'm single, I live by myself. I do have family that live close by, and they've been very happy that I'm back, because I didn't live here most of their lives, and that I'm back and I'm involved in their life. And so it's nice to have family and be able to see my grandchildren who are in their 30s and be a part of their life and accept it, and still have a little bit of faculty.
So are you saying that's what brings you joy, your family?
Yeah. One thing, that's one thing. I do several things, but that would be one thing if I had to. No, yeah, okay.
Right. Thank you.
I'm Chris, and I think to watch my kids together and get along, and how their minds have matured into respectfully young, adults in their 40s now. Young kids.
Yeah.
So that brings me joy to see how I think I'm going to take part of how well I've done. To raising them.
Thank you.
I'm Nancy, and I receive a lot of joy by looking at the videos that my daughter sends me of her dog Roosevelt. He is such a hoot. Her former dog was Hoover, by the way, so we're into the present and she's into poli-sci and and then I have 3 Vashons, and I usually have one with Willie's usually across my left leg with his head on my left hip. Rowdy is snuggled as close as he can get to me on the right side, and Baxter's behind me on the upper part of the sofa. So I get joy from all of the dogs.
Thank you.
I'm Judy, and I guess my favorite person in my life is Eileen. She is very supportive of everything that I do, and I guess I would say a lot of my well-being is from her taking care of me.
Oh, thank you.
And we celebrated our 34th anniversary last week.
Wow.
So that was
Congratulations.
pretty good.
Yay.
What brings me joy is cooking. and singing. So this morning, when I woke up at 3 o'clock, I started thinking about cooking and bringing something today. So I got up at 3:30 and I made goulash this morning and I brought it. So we've got to think about loaves and fishes that there will be enough for everybody to have.
So those who can stay for lunch, please stay for goulash. Yeah, great.
It might just be a little bitty bowl, but anyway,
It'll be plenty.
that's right.
Yeah.
My name is Sharon and my grandchildren bring me great joy. My children are mature adults now and have their own lives. So it's not the same kind of joy, although there's joy being with them. My great joy is watching my 3 grandsons become the men that they are. Yeah. And online, Diane, what brings you joy? Hi, Diane.
Mute.
Unmute.
I said everything brings me joy. The days that I wake up without any pain, I'm just like flying high, which is today. So lack of physical pain brings me joy. The same things everybody has said. I think I've said before, I didn't know how much I liked babies until I had a grandson. I always knew I liked kids, but I didn't know babies were so adorable. So yeah, just living life brings me joy. I mean, it's a constant mystery, isn't it?
Isn't it though? Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Diane.
And
Yeah.
I'm so sorry I'm not there for the goulash. You can teleport some to me. It sounds so yummy. Food brings me joy. Food brings me way too much joy.
Thanks, Diane. And I'm not sure who this is at 623. I see a phone number. I don't know who it is, but would you, whoever you are on the phone, like to share something that brings you joy?
Betty Joe here.
I bet so.
Yes. What brings me joy is my flowers, working in my garden with my flowers, my family, and my friends.
Thank you.
3 F's.
Thanks, Betty Jo. Glad you're with us today. Kat?
Thank you.
Marquina, my cat.
Good.
First thing in the morning, she's there snuggling with me. And so I always wake up with a smile.
Isn't it interesting how so many of us have said it's our pets that bring us joy? Oh, they are pretty loving, aren't they? If they argue with us, we don't recognize it. Okay, well, let's roll. I made a note to myself to just share with you that it might be of interest. In August, I'm going to put a focus, I'm calling it the Fillmore Festival, because actually Unity Mother, the mother in Kansas City, has been doing a Fillmore Festival in the summer for the last few years, where they invite people who have written books about Fillmore's teachings. This year I'm one of them, so I decided, well, I'm going to then make the whole month of August on Sundays a Fillmore Festival. Yeah, so I'm going to, he's written, many of his books are from the lectures that he gave. And just a compilation of the lecture, not just, but a compilation of the lectures he gave. So he's written at least 2 books on healing, Christian healing and Jesus Christ heals. He's written 1 book on prosperity. He's written a book about capital T truth called Talks on Truth. And then he wrote Keep a True Lent. And then one of my all-time favorites, in fact, Prosperity used to be my favorite book by him. He wrote The 12 Powers of Man, which was my inspiration to even get into the 12 powers. So I'm not sure if I'm going to talk about power or I'm going to talk about, I think I'm going to call it atom smashing power. Yeah, so those are the 4 Sundays in August. There are 5 Sundays. So that's just to give you an invitation to show up in August. Okay, now let's look at this. The last four that I'm going to touch on, although I'm going to go back a little bit because we didn't finish everything last week on the topics for last week. But today, to be sure to touch on forgiveness, appreciation, faith, and legacy. All potent, and we could spend, a couple hours on each of them, but not. So last week, one of her topics in the book is nostalgia. And she makes a distinction between nostalgia and memories. One of the things she said is, why do we feel nostalgia? It is good to know where we've come from so that we can measure the distance from here to where it should be where we're going, but it is not good to make the past the acme of our lives. So what do you think about that? It's good to measure the distance from where we were.
This is Kathy. What it reminds me of is, you always hear this, it's a trope about the captain of the football team in high school, never being able to go beyond that. There are movies about that, or the head cheerleader, where they just constantly look back to their glory days of being a teenager. And I've known one person like that, so I don't know how common it is, but it's a Hollywood trope anyhow.
Okay, and so what does that tell you for your life today?
To enjoy, to live in the moment, to take what's happening in my life right now and make the best of that, because I'm not going to change the past.
True. Great, thanks, Kat, thanks. Who else? Yes, Maya?
I thought a lot about nostalgia over the last year, and I think it's really important to me to bring back and remember all that I've accomplished, the really good humanitarian things that I've done with my life. I had to sit down and actually make a list of those because I was feeling like my life was over without my guy. And I think it's important for us to remember the wonderful things that we've done in our life. And it's also helped me to realize that with my aging and the things that are now more limited in my life, that I did live a full life already. So this is just bonus time now. And so I'm able to just look at where I am now and say, okay, what can I do with the rest of my life? And with my limitations, what works, like just adjusting to all of that and figuring out how I can live my best life from here on in. But I think nostalgia is important. There are times when we need to look back and say, hey, I had a really great life. I did a lot of important things in my life, even though right now I don't feel like I can do those things. Maybe I can do something else.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Howard?
Nostalgia tells me that it's good to look back at life, the good and the bad. We learn so much from both of those, but not to dwell on them. That's in the past. We can't change them. They've made us what we are. They've given us the tools we have to make the rest of our lives good. So,
Right. Thank you. Yeah, what else? Anything else come to mind, Chris?
Yes, I think it's good to remember, to have memories, but to live in that time, whether it's melancholy or whatever, I think can be a little dangerous if it's taken too far.
Yes. Yeah, it impedes forward movement or enjoyment of the now moment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I have had a habit for many years now. When it's birthday time or Christmas, I go back into my picture albums, and I have many, of my children and grandchildren when they were all little, and I glue them to the gifts. I glue the pictures to the gifts. And I do that because it's a work of love for me. So every time with each picture, I feel this incredible love for my kids and my grandchildren. And so putting it on there, it's like water for chocolate. And I want them, my hope is, never mind it's a joy for me, my hope is it'll bring them joy to see the fun times, or to remember and to laugh a lot, when they get their gifts. Oh, good, look at this, do you remember? Yeah. Okay, anybody else before I move on? Manjush?
I wanted to reply to what Chris had said about not living in the past. This past year and a half, there were no new memories. I was totally at home. Yeah, I think except for Albricia's Carol was to pick me up and take me somewhere and bring me here. I had to go back to the old memories to come up with, oh, that used to be then, that was so great. This was my grandfather's rose garden. That's what my mother used to say. When I was writing my books, she would say, when I'd go to India, she'd say, I'm not going to help you if you're not ready by 9 o'clock after breakfast. She was my co-editor. So I came up with past memories to fill the emptiness of this past year. I didn't do a darn thing. I just stood still and survived. Now there are other people who said, I did this, I did that, and I was kind of irritated and jealous that I didn't do anything. So that I think each of us
makes
reacts
sense.
differently.
Yeah, makes good sense. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Memories. Eileen, you want to read that for us?
The goal of memories is to give them the kind of meaning that makes them precious rather than painful. How do we do that? I'll answer that.
Okay, please.
I like in my memories to think about those people who have passed on, especially my mother and sister, because we had so many nice times together, and I think of all of the different qualities that I have received from my mother, her giving nature and her wanting to get people together to spread the love and the family togetherness. And those are the things that I like to reflect on to celebrate her. And the same thing with my sister and others who are gone.
Great, great. So to appreciate the fun times, even though they're not here, the pain that they're not here now. Right.
They are here with me though.
Yeah, right? I mean, a thought brings them here, maybe not physically, right? Anybody else on this one?
I wanted to make just one other comment.
Yeah.
When I moved to Arizona, my mother was really sad because I had moved from different places of the country back to Utah, close to where they lived. And so when I left, she said, oh, honey, I'm gonna miss you so bad. And I said, Mother, this is the perfect time for us to be able to learn how to communicate when we're not in each other's presence.
Oh.
And so that's another thing that I do now, that I, communicate with her now, because I know that she's there. And so it's something to really, bring back to yourself and your heart.
Well, and that really speaks also to this quote, doesn't it? Yeah. Anybody else on that one, Howard?
I mentioned before I wrote my autobiography, it was nothing more than a collection of memories as I thought back. And to my surprise, it gave me a whole different perspective about my life. That until I put it together and thought about why I did, what the results are of what I did, and put that in order, I had a different opinion of me at the end of that, and it was all positive. So I would encourage everybody to, you talk about the memories, write one down. And when you get that done, write another one down. And before you realize it, you've written your life down, and it will give you a different view of who you think you are. I guarantee you.
And it was a good thing, right? Who you
Yes.
think you are.
Yes.
I heard that there was someone who taught, you can tell me maybe, Kathy, someone.
Tom
Did your autobiography here?
Gretchener, I can't say his last name, but they're the congregants who moved up to Cottonwood, so they're not here anymore.
Okay. Maybe we can find somebody though. I have some friends back in San Diego who took that class and really loved it, so writing your autobiography is.
The other person who was going to do it, and she did it kind of privately during COVID, was, oh my goodness, Curry. Eileen Curry. Ellen Curry, yeah. Yeah, she's taught that also.
Maybe when she's back from Canada. I saw another, Carol?
Some of you know that, when my sister died last year, my younger sister and I started talking a lot more, and we talked about our mom a lot. And we came up with the momisms, and I talked about that one Sunday in church. But so we've written a lot of things, and we now have gotten so whenever something goes wrong, and then we always use the line my mother used, "Well, you're okay now," and we do that all the time now. You got you doing it. But anyways, so I'm seeing my mother in a different way, and I'm having fun with my sister. And then the other thing, we remember some things about our sister Patty who passed, and so we joke, and then we say, well, that's Patty just playing with us, when something's going on, we just think that's our sister. And, so we just are playing around with some of those memories, which we hadn't done before, and it actually is bringing me some joy and some thinking about things differently.
Yeah, it really, well, I just got a picture, the unity that we all are anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps the thread alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My grandma lived to be 105.
Wow.
And then she died in the 90s. So, that was really quite elderly for that time. And she wrote her autobiography. She couldn't see, except with a magnifying glass that was lit. And her handwriting was pretty scratchy. But I treasure what she did write down about ice skating on the river and all those things she did as a kid. I wouldn't know those if she hadn't written that down.
So that's all to say, it's a legacy. We're not at legacy yet, but it's a legacy to leave for families.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Kathy. Eileen already said it, but I just wanted to agree with her that I think that the best way to make your memories positive is to be thankful, gratitude, have an attitude of gratitude. I look back at the same event with a sister of mine, and all she sees is the bad, and I don't remember any of that. And all I remember is the good. And I think that is because I ground myself in gratitude. It's just, there's always something good to be seen in just about everything, and looking for that and thanking God for the good part that you see. And then that's what you remember.
Reminds me of, have any of you done the forum? No? Have you heard of the forum? Warner Earhart forum. It was really popular in the 80s and 90s. It's still around. Landmark Education brought it up. So it's now Landmark Education. But I'll never forget some of the terminology that really spoke to, made things clear. So one of the ways that the forum or that particular approach to spirituality and spiritual evolution and growing, maturing, healing was to be the term, it would be phrased like this: I am a looking for good. Do you get the distinction? Rather than I look for the good, I am a looking for the good. Can you hear that? It's a subtle difference, but nevertheless.
It's a state of mind rather than a physical action.
Say that again?
It's a state of mind rather than a physical action.
Yes, it's like a state of being almost. For me, it makes it so fully present. Rather than passive, it's like in the distinction between the active voice and the passive voice.
It's like being the watcher, like, there's a book I just read, I get the untethered soul, and the watcher is the part that's aware of your consciousness, and, you know, and when you can be there, it's wonderful, and you're fully conscious at that point.
Yeah. So since you're talking about the untethered soul, how many of you have read that one?
I haven't, but
I highly recommend it. It says in very simple ways, he takes the complex and makes it very simple.
Who's that? Who does that?
It's Michael Singer, who wrote the book, The Untethered Soul.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
His second book, The Surrender Experiment, is very good too.
Yeah.
Follow book.
So
And who wrote the forum? I like that. I am the looking for good. I like that a lot.
check out, go online, Diane, and look for Landmark Education.
Landmark, thank you.
Landmark brought it out. It was the Werner Earhart program, which began with the forum. If you look, you might still find something on the forum online.
Okay. Thank you.
I just recently went back. I was in one of my files, and there was, I don't know if there still is, there was a Landmark Education office here in Phoenix. I don't know if it's still here. But anyway, one of the things that Michael Singer said in his book, or wrote in his book, was, and I've said something, we only have one decision in life. We only have one decision. It's not who we want to marry or what career, or even if we want to seek God. It's, do I want to be happy or do I not want to be happy? Take your pick. Moment to moment. Moment to moment. Do I want to be happy or do I not want to be? Is what I'm about to say or do going to make me happy or not? It's not going to make me happy. Why bother? Why do it? And you might put contentment in there or peace in there, because sometimes we have to have difficult conversations, right? At least I have. They don't make me happy necessarily, but I am complete and at peace. Okay, let's go back to memory. Howard, would you read this one for us? Can you see it from there?
Yeah. Memory is a call to resolve that. Pardon me. Memory is a call to resolve what won't go away. An invitation to delight in what is the gold standard of our lives. The desire for completion, an opportunity for healing. What do you relate to in the above? Your gold standard.
Yeah. So what is your gold standard? Michael Singer's gold standard is this going to make me happy or not? That's his gold standard. Diane?
2 comments. First of all, if you're raised Catholic, and I know some of the others in the room are, I think the biggest quest for me is that belief that it's good to be happy. It's not only okay, it's good to be happy. Because there's conflicts around that. You know, I mean, how joyful do we want to get, right? It's kind of sinful to be too happy. And I I feel like I've mastered that a lot in my life. And so that's kind of cool. And the last comment would be, for me, and that's why I've appreciated this class, what I am really seeking at this point in my life is the desire for completion. I think that really comes with age. I don't know if anybody else in the group feels that piece, but I've had kind of a fascinating life in a lot of ways. But now that I'm looking back on it, it's like, well, okay, how do I put the cherry on the sundae, so to speak? You know, what did it all mean, so to speak?
Great, thank you, thank you. Yeah, that whole thing about completion is really important, significant, and essential to peace of mind. Anybody else? Yes, Susie?
Well, I'm just thinking about this. And so you're supposed to do in your head, like if you have to clean the toilet, that's gonna make me happy because when I'm done, then I'll be happy it's done. I mean, there's things you have to do that. I mean, I guess you could tell your head, okay, when it's over, I'll be happy because I don't have to do it.
No, be happy while you're doing it.
Oh, okay, okay, that's, take a bit, okay. Right?
Yeah, it's like, I get what you're saying. It reminds me of, that monk, practicing the presence of God, Joel Goldsmith, but there's a story about, what's his name? A monk who made a practice of doing everything he was doing to honor God, and in that happy. So his job in the monastery was to wash dishes. And he said, so I made washing dishes a joy. I was happy washing dishes. Now, other people would moan and complain, why do I have to do that? But the key, and I think it was Singer's point too, is doesn't matter what you're doing, you have a choice to complain about it or enjoy it. You have a choice to like it or not like it. It really is, we're always, and this is the big responsibility in our lives, we have to realize that we always have a choice, even though it may not seem like it. Carol?
I think I shared this before, but I always hated housework.
Yeah.
And I read a book about that, and they said, think of it as home caring. And it's totally changed my attitude. And I'm grateful I have a house, and I love it to be orderly and neat and clean. So most of the time, I don't mind doing housework because I'm caring for my home, and I'm grateful that I have a home.
Yeah, see, that's a different perspective, isn't it? There's always, for everything, you know, there's a circle of perspective. We get to stand here and look at it, or here and look at it. Okay, how, anybody else on any of these? The invitation to look at what your gold standard is, the desire for completion, or an opportunity for healing. Howard?
At the risk of ending my life here, as you know, my wife and I are opposites. And her comment, the desire for completion, as an outsider observing, she doesn't have that desire.
You don't have that desire?
No. I mean, I'll give you an example. You know, if you take something that needs to go in the recycling bin in the garage, in my wife's world, she'll carry it from wherever she sees it to a place. It might go from the coffee table into the kitchen and the counter. Then you watch a couple hours later, it might end up down the counter. And then a few hours later, it'll end up in the garage. For example, she is the only person in this world, I think, that will get up in the morning and make her half of the bed.
No, that's cheating.
That's why I hate that.
And I don't think that is an insult or her saying, well, go make your own. I'd say that she just didn't get around to going around to the other side of the bed. I can't possibly make half of it. When I make the bed, I make both sides and make sure they're done. When I take the can, I take it to the garage. Usually when she puts it halfway down the counter, I'll pick it up for her and take it into the garage. That's just, to me, I have to complete what I start. To her, she lives in the moment all the time. The end result is insignificant.
I'm conserving energy.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the Myers-Briggs last week?
Yeah, we did.
We did, didn't we? Carol.
I don't know if this would be considered a gold standard, but last few years, I'm thinking more about when I choose what to do, I think about being true to myself, and that's new. You know, what is, you know, about me being genuinely pleased within myself, not what other people expect or what I think society expects.
How does that work as board president?
Pretty good. I'm not president, I'm vice president.
Oh, well, just wait.
Can you repeat that? We couldn't hear, Carol.
Oh, I said, about the board?
No.
No, I just said, that my gold standard right now is just to make decisions based on what makes me happy or what is within me versus what I think I should do and what I think others expect or what others tell me they expect. It's like, no, I do what I want to, you know, I'm my own person, and more spiritually guided as well.
Yeah, and that's very freeing, isn't it? It is.
Yeah. When I thought of completion, and what I took that to mean was the completion of my life, working towards it. And I never thought about the end being near because my grandma lived to be so old. But when Linda Vincent died, that made it more real.
Yes, when someone close to you, when you work you. Yeah, and so the desire for completion, I mean, we do think at a certain stage, you know, I'm not in the first half of my life anymore, clearly, right? So where am I in the full spectrum, no matter how long I live? Here, I think too, it's talking about the desire for completing anything that's unfinished. So, because if we experience it as unfinished, it demands our energy, whether it's in our consciousness or not. It's an energy leak. So there are, remember I talked about this here, right? Three energy leaks. Three things that sap our energy. One is undelivered communication. The second one is unmet expectation. We say it's always better not to have expectations. But if we do and they're unmet, it's an energy leak. It messes with our peace. And the third one is thwarted intention. How many of you have ever been in a relationship where you were misunderstood? Thwarted intention.
Sharon, I think when you speak about the end of life, you're talking finality, you know, the end. And I don't think there is such a thing. I think there's always something else to know, something else to learn, something else to feel. And that's the exciting part.
Yes.
It's like, I'm like my grandmother lived to be 102. And so, I don't know. Yeah. So, as I say, I'm looking forward to the next thing I'm going to do.
Isn't it, Lori? I love that, Judy. So there's always something more to learn, always something more to enjoy. Yeah,
Other people to know.
great. Other people know, more people to know and learn from. Great, great. Thank you. Yes. Betty.
Do you remember first,
Loud and clear.
do you remember the first night of meditation? I think you asked us. I don't even remember the question, but I said that I've always wanted to write a book with all these stories that I've had throughout my life. Experiences, coincidences, synchronicities, healing, and they're all written down. And I always wanted to write a book, but I now being in unity, I realize that some of the readers are going to be traditional religion. And so if I talk about spirit or the universe speaking through me, they won't like that. And the ones that are new thought, if I say, well, I pray to God, they'll say, well, that's old fashioned or whatever. Anyway, I realized an absolutely ridiculous excuse, but that's what I used for 3 years. And then I realized that I wasn't getting those stories anymore because I felt guilty that I wasn't using with what I had. And so that night in meditation, I don't even remember whether it was what do you plan to do or whatever. I think I said, I'm going to reconsider now all my excuses. And you said, I'm going to hold you to that. Remember when you said that? Well, since I made up my mind what direction I want to go in, things have been opening up. I have a friend who writes a blog, and she writes some, what they call them, prompts for each day of the week. It's a thought, and then people can write in and respond. So I can shorten a couple of my stories to fit the response to that prompt. And there I am in print. Oh my God. But anyway, I let him know that I finally was putting my writing out in public. My daughter-in-law is a life coach. She has a blog. And she said, a blog might be, instead of trying to edit a book or write a whole book, which is a lot of work, and then after you've done, in order to distribute it, that's also hard to do too. But the blog with our technology can go anywhere, anytime, whatever. So we are setting up a site for that. So I'll be putting them out there.
Great.
And I happened to tell two of my stories the other day at a meeting, a discussion group, which is mostly male and mostly Republican and mostly conservative. But I told this, one of my stories, like the one that I told you the other day, a metaphor. And they all were saying, wow, that's really good. So I don't do it for the praise, obviously. I'm not doing it for money. But I feel that these stories help some certain people, depending on the topic that we're writing on, trust or fear or whatever. Yes, Elaine, I'll let you call.
And it's giving you a sense of completion.
Well, it's a beginning, not a completion. But I have a different feeling about.
You don't feel guilty anymore, do you?
No, I feel anxious to get home and get to the computer before I have found every reason I have to go to the store. I have to answer my email. Oh, it's too late. Oh, it's too early. Now I can't wait to get to it.
I was going to say, you never know when you write those stories, who's going to see them. And you never know what it's going to touch in that person that reads them. I mean, like I finished your Adventures in Prayer last night. I've been reading it. I just read a little bit and then I, go through that part. But when I got through, I thought, the nice thing about that book is that it has a story, and then it has examples, and then it has the prayer and affirmations and all those things for just that thing right there. And you can just expound on that. And that's what I see with your stories, that you never know who's going to read them and how it's going to touch them. And they might be a Republican that suddenly changes their mind, that they're, you might open them up. Who knows, I mean, you don't know how it's gonna affect people. You just do not.
Yeah. Well, anyway, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Great. Okay, anything else here? Off we go. Spiritual reflection. Someone read this one for us.
Now is the time to ask ourselves what kind of person we have been becoming all these years. And do we like that person.
Spiritual reflection. Now is the time to ask ourselves, what kind of person we have been becoming all these years? Any comments?
Big ego, I'm very happy with who I am.
Good. Good. And the kind of person you have become is a happy person?
Yes.
Great.
And the nice thing about Judy is that she can just be in the moment, and right now I'm just gonna paint this little scene, and now I'm gonna get up and go get some juice, and now, she is just totally in the moment all the time and just doing her thing.
What a great example.
And if it involves you, fun, and if it doesn't, that's fine too. You can go do your thing, I'll just be doing this. She's just really good at
Well,
that.
you can see how comfortable she makes me.
Aww.
Diana had a hand. Who did?
Diane?
Diane.
I was thinking, we were talking about happiness earlier, and I say sometimes I feel guilty because I'm too happy. But I was thinking, for really happiness, and the monk story brought it to me again, Sharon. It's really a connection to God. So for me, what kind of person I've been becoming, I think is my life has been about my spiritual journey. It's been about coming from that place where I was taught a judgmental, unloving, scary God to a place where, I can be fully present with myself, with God. And so, I was watching on Netflix, I shouldn't have watched it, but I did, the Jeffrey Epstein series. And, when there's that kind of evil, what I think about is that person is not connected at all to God. So I think, if we leave aside our personalities, like my husband's happy-go-lucky, and I'm kind of a deep thinker, but we're good for each other because it's that place of the lady that lives in the moment. That's a great skill, that you're just always kind of joyful and present. And that's not me. I'm more of a thinker, but I can get to that place. And so, we're lucky that we meet these people that bring us to these different places and that bring us closer to God, in my opinion. And I have one quick question. What book is that coming from? Because you mentioned those three things, the undelivered communication, unmet expectations. What is that coming from, Sharon?
It was a conversation I had with one of my coaches.
Okay.
Many years ago. Came out of the forum, actually.
Okay, I like that. I like those three
Don't
things.
you know, it really is, says it for me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Diane. So close your eyes, everybody close your eyes for a moment. And just look inside, look in your heart. And what one word, there are probably many words that describe who you've been becoming all these years. But let one word that you really like, wow, yeah, this is what I've been becoming. Let one word come. And when you're ready, when you have that word, open your eyes. Okay. So I'm going to start with Eileen, and we're just going to go through the room. What is the one word that for you describes in some way what you've been becoming all these years? Eileen?
Accepting.
Thank you.
Spirit,
Thank you.
spiritual,
Thank you.
confident,
Thank you.
survivor,
Thank you.
loving,
Thank you.
seeker,
Seeker. Thank you.
messenger,
Thank you.
Gratitude.
Thank you.
Better.
Thank you.
love,
Thank you. Essence. Thank you. Online. Kath.
Content.
Content, thank you. Diane,
Peaceful.
thank you. Betty Jo,
Watchful awareness.
thank you. My word is funny. Life for me was never funny growing up. Never funny. I had no voice, no voice. So for me to tell a blonde joke.
Give her another chance.
I love blonde jokes.
We didn't get our joke today, Sharon.
What?
We didn't get the joke yet today, the peaceful blonde.
I mean, I need to have researchers looking for blonde jokes. I have had to go back to blonde jokes, the other one. Okay, I'm moving on. I think I'm gonna skip this nostalgia. We've covered it.
Yeah.
Enough. We covered that. Okay, forgiveness. Someone read this one, please.
Forgiveness. We not only have much to forgive, we have much to be forgiven for, if not by others, at least by ourselves.
So what have you learned about forgiveness, and how have you learned to forgive? The question is, how do we forgive? But I mean, think about your own experience. What have you learned about forgiveness? Carol?
Afraid of talking too much, but
No.
this is so important for me. What I've learned about forgiveness is it's essential to be at peace. And what I do, when I remember, then I always sleep much better. Before I go to bed, I say, I forgive everyone for everything, including myself. I always put that in there. And I have so much I've been holding on to that has kept me from being at peace or happy about myself, about other people. So this is so freeing to, but you have to, I think, I just speaking for myself, I need to keep reminding myself to forgive, because it's not a natural thing that I grew up with forgiveness.
Right. Thank you. Well, yeah,
This is just a little thing, might be kind of strange, but why do we have to forgive somebody? Maybe they didn't even do anything wrong, but it's the way that we took it, that we think it's something that they did that we have to forgive them for. A simple thing.
so who do you forgive?
Well, a simple thing, it doesn't even come up. A simple thing, you're riding out here on Grand Avenue and somebody cuts you off and you're so angry with him and so forth and so on. And then, well, maybe he's going to the hospital to see his wife deliver a baby or whatever. He wasn't doing it to me. The only time you have to, I think, the only time when you're trying to forgive somebody is because they did something to you. So look at each thing and say, well, they weren't really doing that to me anyway. Maybe they behaved badly. The thing came up at the discussion group yesterday that one guy said something about, I don't know, but I didn't, if I can think of it quickly. He said, basically he was saying, you made me angry about this. And I said, you know, this other guy's sitting here and he's not angry, so why are you the only one that's angry? You don't make me angry, I make myself angry. And they all kind of lit up and said, yeah, that's true, because in that situation, the only person that was angry was the one who was feeling the anger and nobody else was feeling that. So at any rate, I knew it was going to be a little offbeat, but just remember sometimes that people aren't really doing things to you on purpose. I had a gentleman on the board that I was president of who was going around saying a lot of unpleasant things. And it turned out that he was on one of these painkillers and stuff. And he was kind of mad about everything, about everybody. And it turned out that I wasn't really doing what he was saying as president. I was a good president, but he was just finding things that were hurting him.
So I'm gonna repeat what you said, because I'm afraid our folks online did not get it. And so Betty was saying that in terms of forgiveness, you can avoid having to forgive if you don't take it personally in the first place. So, so if someone is angry with her, she doesn't have to match that. It's not about her. She doesn't take it personally. She says it's their problem. Essentially, right? So let's just say one time in your life, you all have taken something personal.
No, and I'm not saying that this isn't a problem, because there are people that do nasty things on purpose to other people.
True.
Well, I think it's a question of feeling a victim. And once you realize that something's in your face for you to look at, and it gets you beyond being the victim of it. It's like, what do I need to see here?
Okay, good. So, so Judy was saying to not be a victim. So what we're saying is when we take things personally and get upset about it or hurt, we just become a victim. And so to free ourselves from feeling like a victim or being a victim, we look at it and say, what can I learn from this? This is in my face. It's not against me, it's for me in some way. How is this for me? Did I get it?
Yeah.
Somewhere I came across the idea, or was exposed to the idea, that only God can forgive. We can forget, but we can't forgive, because that's just God's role.
I see it.
I see
Maybe.
it the other way.
Yeah, the other way.
Pardon?
I see it the other way, that, no.
Well, I listened to Billy's talk, because I missed it on Father's Day. Didn't she talk about God? Yeah, there's no reason for God to forgive you, because God knows who you are. You're pure love, you're pure spirit. So you don't need forgiveness from God, because God relates to you in your essence. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, of course. Yeah, and I was, for me, this is my take on it, and that is that of myself, I can do nothing, Jesus said. Jesus said, of myself, my own personality, my own foibles, I can do nothing. It is the Father within who does the work. So for me, it is Spirit within who erases it from my consciousness or allows me to let it go. So we're still talking about what we've learned about forgiveness, and one of them is God doesn't hold anything against us, because God is only love and can't be anything but love. We say in unity. So let's see, I'm not sure which hand went up first. Oh, Joy.
It's taken me a long, long time to realize there's a difference between forgetting and forgiving. Because you can forgive, that doesn't necessarily mean you can forget. Forgiveness is a way of living with it or understanding, instead of carrying around a lot of anger and why and how come and yada, 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 until you make a choice to say, this is the way it was. I don't understand it. I never will. I don't want to repeat any of it, but I can forgive it. But the things that the wounds are, you don't forget it, but when you forgive it, it doesn't take hold of you anymore. It doesn't make you react. It doesn't make you act in a certain way. You don't want to say, you don't want to have vengeance. You don't want to have pain. You don't want to be happy when payback happens. It just changes everything. But it took me a long time to realize if the memories don't go away, but all the feeling towards them and the behavior can be changed.
Yeah.
So that's what I,
Great.
my daughter used to say, I can forgive my dad, but I can't forget what he did.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't give it any power over you.
Yeah,
That's exactly
yeah,
what
and
Joyce
it's like,
said.
Oh. This thing of forgiveness is very, very, someone was saying essential. Carol, I guess. You know, whenever we are upset about something, there's some forgiveness to do, right? Some things are greater than others. One of my colleagues, I'll never forget, Stan Hampson, defined forgiveness as giving up all hope of a better past, or giving up all hope of a better yesterday. Just, yeah. So what have we learned about forgiveness? Diane?
Well, I just was realizing again that for me, I was really angry at Jeffrey Epstein last night. I was like, boy, these rich people and all their power, they're abusing all these people. And, you know, and then if I think about it, it gets back to, for me, the anger sometimes is grief. Because the story told of all these young women who had had their lives ruined by his behavior and his friends' behavior. And so for me, it's important to remember what I've learned, you know, the forgiveness piece is when that anger comes up in me, oftentimes it's about grief. It's about, and I love that quote, that giving up the hope for a better past, you know, that is, you know, because it is hard to understand all the evil in the world. It's difficult to live with it, you know, and when I say evil, I mean behavior that's hurting others, you know, it's difficult to see. So.
And in unity, we have the antidote for that. And it is to pray for them. Wishing for them the grace of God, the goodness of God, whatever. That frees us, and it might help them, you never know. Anything else on forgiveness?
Could I just add one thing?
Please.
I think it's what you know when you need to forgive because you're being robbed of some energy. It's like no matter what you're doing, these little thoughts will keep coming back. So you know there's something there. And some of them are really big. And one of the things that I learned in India, because when you work with a guru, all of your blocks are magnified. So I got to be in those 24/7. And one thing I learned about forgiveness is a technique that you have to actually do a little ritual of some sort, where you just sit down and you talk to God, Spirit, and you say, this is something that I want to give up its control over me. And I'm doing that now. I'm turning it over to you. And I found that to work every time. But sometimes I'd have to just sit like with my feet on the floor of the temple and just say it. I'm letting it go out the bottoms of my feet, or, you know, but really take a little time and say, I am letting this go now. I don't understand it all. I don't understand exactly how to make it go away. So I'm just turning it over to you. And so that's a little
Because God does.
I mean, I had some really big things, and it really helped me to get through.
I like that, some kind of a ritual.
Something where you really, some people crack a coconut or, you know, sit for 5 minutes and do a couple malas of some mantra, whatever it is that you can say, I'm really, really serious about this.
Yeah, yes. There's something that a ritual speaks to the soul, like words don't. So, yeah.
And
like
the
that.
intention with God that, okay, I'm taking this moment to really say, I want to let go of this. It's got too much power over me, and I'm not able to do it myself, because that's what would happen to me. It was just like, it would just take over.
Like the burning bowl. Like the burning bowl, exactly. Or I was in a workshop once where we actually washed our hands. Appreciation. Chris, will you read this one for us? Can you see it okay?
I can. It seems as if one of the functions of aging is to give us the capacity to see what we've missed all the years before.
So this is in relation to appreciation, that quote. In the book, she says, appreciation is the nectar of the gods. One of the functions of aging is to give us the capacity to see what we've missed all the years before. Have any of you noticed that? That you're noticing things that you didn't notice in earlier times?
Very much so.
Comment?
I feel like when you're younger, you're establishing yourself as this person on the planet. And you're trying to build your ego, you're more defensive and you listen less. And as I've gotten older, I always wanted to teach or help others, or, wanted to say something that would make a difference, rather than sometimes just step back and let someone else do it and listen. And that's really the most beautiful thing that has happened to me, is that I don't have to be somebody great all the time. I just need to be here. Just be here right now and see what's going on.
Free.
And I appreciate who you are, because I always glean something wonderful from you. All the times that I've watched you online and everything, I just have such a love and an appreciation for those messages that you share. And I feel the same way about everybody in the room, because look at these classes that we've had every single week, and all the different people who we've met, and those things that we've shared that have touched our hearts and helped us get to know each other and know ourselves especially. I just really appreciate that about all of you, and I'm so thankful for this class every week.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciation. What we appreciate appreciates.
Right. It's too bad we didn't realize to have the capacity to appreciate what we have done all the years before.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to say it should make us sad, because that would make us all sad. But it's just to be aware, to bring that awareness to the surface of what we have missed. That's too bad. It's just too bad. But it's where we are in our lives right now, I think, is the appreciation.
I think, and that's where you are, and I think it's her contention, and I would have to agree, because I notice that the older I have become, the more I appreciate the little things that I missed before, like a beautiful flower, like the flowering plants in the desert here, like a kind word, like a beautiful sunset. I was too busy. So, and I think of, the way in spiritual language, there's a word called redemption, right? Redeem. And for me, we redeemed the past by doing it differently in the present.
And
So
being
if I
conscious
miss
of that.
something in the past, I can redeem it and shift the energy totally, transform it by doing it differently now.
I think that's why we call this the age of super consciousness.
Yeah.
Because we are becoming conscious of all of these different things that make us who we are and a part of the divinity. And that conscious awareness is just so beautiful.
It is,
When you
isn't it?
pay attention.
And science is really supporting spirituality now, so we have proof that all those things we've been taught or come to believe can happen, like we actually can transform our consciousness. Yeah. Faith. Someone read this, please. Surely, if you can see it, it's a little small.
Surely one of the purposes of life is to bring us to the point where we come to trust the universe, to recognize the logic of its apparent chaos in our lives. Do you, for real?
Yeah. Do we trust the universe? Howard?
I'm not sure I can say I trust the universe, but I've learned to accept it. What it has the power to do what it wants to do, and I've learned to accept the fact that if what God says, everything is a purpose, whatever happens, the outcome will be good for us.
Great. Great. So acceptance is a big thing. Yes. Mantush, I haven't heard much from you. What have you got to say?
About faith?
About anything that we've been talking about.
Sweetheart, I'm thinking over a lot of these things, when we talked about forgiveness, I think not only do we forgive people, I was sharing with Carol the other day that when I was a young girl, one of my aunts was very mean to me. She thought I had done something wrong. My training was that not to reply. I told her, I said I should have straightened her out, but I didn't. But also to forgive oneself for where things that I could have done better, I could have pleased my parents better, that, I disappointed my parents terribly when I got divorced because it's not permitted in India. Especially long time back, it was not permitted. And so it was like you dishonored the family if you broke tradition. And I've carried that hurt or guilt a long time. And in America, we have 50-60% divorce, so I feel very comfortable. So I can forgive myself. And forgiveness for people who are, I'm not sure what the word is, they're not trained or sensitive or educated, people will do something or unaware, and you can figure out why they behave the way that they did. They don't know any better.
Right.
And when you look at Christ, he says, forgive them for they know not what they do.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are many things that everybody's sharing that I think about. And faith is sometimes I feel is make believe. Do we tell ourselves things because to make us feel better? Is it when Howard is talking about the universe? Is there an intelligent universe? Is it just unfolding of its own accord, the atoms, the motion, the vapors, is it really planning our future or the stars or whatever? Are we just accidents of evolution? So I'm not sure what to think.
Good. It's not a comfortable place to be, but it's a good place. Something is trying to emerge in you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Well, and there's something which I hope I don't offend anybody because, I came to this country, this is my country. I've lived here much longer, 2-3 times the time that I've lived in India. But my faith in our beautiful country is shaken.
Yeah.
By last year. I've never seen such hatred. And this is when Carol talks of being the love. Because I'm not sure you can teach anybody love any other way. or, you know, why aren't you loving? Whatever the reasons are, sometimes people feel superior in hatred, you know, I'm better than you in some way or the other. And so there's a lot to think about in this class. I'm sorry I didn't attend this class before because I'm learning a lot. Thank you for everybody's input. Thank you so much.
Glad you came.
There's more to come.
Well, I don't know if you online could hear Mantush, but she was talking about an experience she had as a young girl with an aunt and forgiving, and all of the her thoughts about forgiveness and her thoughts about faith, questioning, is this an intelligent universe? Is there a purpose for all of us here for this life? Really, really deep questions. And she was talking to about looking at all of the hate and anger that's been out there this past year, that kind of energy out there. And it's shaken her faith, is what she was saying. So I want to say, you know, part of our own spiritual evolution, part of my spiritual evolution is reconciling those kinds of things. How do I reconcile that in my mind and heart so that I can find peace and a way to live, a design for my own life that's effective for me, that works, that connects me, for me, connects me to a power greater than myself that I choose to call God. I choose to call the source of all that is God. There are lots of names for it, many names. In India, they would refer to it as Brahma.
No, Brahma is a man.
Not Rama, Brahma.
Brahma, yep. Brahma is the creator of the universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's three parts.
Pardon?
There's three parts of it.
Just like in the Trinity.
Yes, yeah. And, why don't you tell what it is?
Well, there's the creator, the sustainer of life, and then there's the transformer, where things are dying, and, you know, it's just like the seasons.
Completion of the cycle of life before it recreates.
Yes.
So it's as she said, and it's called Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So it's the Trinity.
Yes. There, you know, all faiths have reconciled life. In India, it is the triune, the creator, the sustainer, and the transformer. In Christianity, it is God, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And I'm not sure what it is in Islam, but I'm sure it's there.
It is very similar to Christianity, to Judaism. But Buddhism is silent about God. It really does not.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. It does talk about energy, though. The various energies and what gets in the way of peace. Buddhism, we're talking now.
You know, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that my religion is compassion.
Yes.
And love. And that says a lot.
Yes, it does.
And I love that some smart person said, God created man, and then man returned the compliment.
Right. Right. It's that unknown mystery. And it reminds me of that passage in the Bible where Elijah has, given up. He was rejected and he was trying to help the people, rejected, ran away, hid out, and the voice of God comes to him. But scripture says it was not in the thunder, it was not in the wind. It was a still small voice. But for me, it points to, we come to some understanding of God, the creator, the source energy, by experiencing it. We can think about it all we want, but until we experience it, it's just a thought. It doesn't sustain us or transform us.
Right. And the faith is there when you have experiences throughout your life, you start to realize that this universe is divine. You just start to know it for yourself. It's not something somebody told you. You start to know it,
You come to know it by experiencing it in some way.
It doesn't mean that you're gonna trust everybody in a parking lot late at night as an alone woman.
Right.
Or, it means that you're still gonna watch out for yourself and use your human qualities, but that there is some grand design to all of this. That's good.
Seems to be. Because apparently gravity is working.
Yeah.
Okay, last one, and we've only got a couple minutes left here. Legacy, we leave behind the memory of the way we treated strangers, how we loved the individuals closest to us, and how we cared for those who loved us. So, this one, what do you want people to say at your eulogy? I think that tells enough about legacy.
Joy, I'm gonna say it. Anyway, she just like a week or two ago, when she went back to see her family, she was going to be in the car with her kids and ask them the question, and I think this is fabulous. I would like to do this once or twice. What are you going to remember about me? To ask your kids. That's a pretty open statement. You're opening it up for an answer.
I know, very courageous question.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You gotta be prayed up before you do that.
Yeah, it's a big.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the point of this really is we've got today to do something about our legacy. That's all we've got, just the moments. So, I want my kids to say I tell good blonde jokes. Just kidding. Howard?
The interesting thing is, if you think about it, we struggle our whole life through our middle age for the career to become vice president or whatever it is that you do. You do all those things, and then you get to your retirement years and you ask yourself this question. And I wouldn't want my grandchildren to say, oh, he was vice president or he was a kind of master. That's got nothing to do with it.
Right.
He was a nice person. I loved him. He was caring. He was helpful. Those are the things that we hope they remember, not what we spent our whole life doing.
Right.
What a waste of time.
Exactly.
Like this.
Yes. What was your last statement?
I said, what a waste of time most of our life has been, seeking goals that aren't important.
But think about, well, maybe true. If you reflect and see, well, what did my energy expenditure, what was it about? What did it teach me?
It created me.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
what it did.
Exactly.
It gave me the ability to reflect on life.
Exactly. So, I think I'll say this and we should probably close. God is the creative source of all that is, right? And God creates through us. So we're made in the image and likeness. And we're here to be creative beings. We're always creating, whether we are aware of it or not. My thoughts are creative, right? We teach that in Unity. My thoughts create my reality. So how do I want to use the infinite energy at my disposal, how do I want to use it? I can create with this. Am I going to create, then we get back to, am I going to create joy or peace? Am I going to create happy? Am I going to create what? What? So we're compelled and impelled to be creative, to do something. Do something. And doing nothing is doing something. I can refuse to do anything and I'm doing something. Matush?
Sharon, when I'm feeling very inadequate, I use a affirmation. I'm handcrafted by God.
Ooh.
I'm perfect. So, because a lot of times when we don't feel adequate, we think we haven't done this, or we should have done that, or there's lots left to do, or, we come to a certain point in our life span that we are right now. And I think, gee, I should have done this or that, or I could have been this or that. And then we say we're adequate, handcrafted, and molded, predestined. So that helps me.
Yes, thank you for that one. It's good to have an affirmation like that handy because stuff always comes up. As long as we're alive, I think. More purified we get, the less it happens, but I haven't gotten there yet, have you? Well, let's close with prayer, and I want to thank all of you. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Namaste. It's been wonderful for me as well. Diane, thank you for tuning in. Betty Jo, thanks for coming on board today. Kathy, all of us here. As we leave today, remember Eileen has lunch if you can stay. And if you stay for lunch, maybe we can carry on the discussion. I wanted to have each of us share what's the big takeaway, or is there a takeaway for having spent this time exploring these ideas. So think about that. And we'll close with prayer. Most amazing, dazzling source energy. We give thanks to reflect right now that your source energy is who we are. That your source energy is our DNA. And that your creative energy fills us with vitality, with peace and joy. And so as we go into the rest of our day, we give thanks for this time, for the fruits that continue to blossom and nourish us in the days ahead. Thank you, God. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you all. Bravo. Thank you.